Does that word apartheid exist in the Jewish mindset before this conversation with, because just as you mentioned with Germany or the Holocaust and things like that, and the apartheid aspect of that, is that a word that has been used and it is used to describe that before we were
Good
talking about the
question.
sort of situation with Israel and Palestine?
Not exactly. I mean, so it's mostly used because it was obviously it was a term coined by white South Africans called, it basically means separate or separateness in, I think, in Afrikaans. And so it's become kind of, a useful term to describe any legal system in which people are separated by their race, in which there's different legal systems. But so it's a useful word. But again, Jim Crow was an apartheid system. Right. It
Hmm.
was a system in which people had different legal rights. So it was before apartheid was I think,
And
coined in the
I
40s.
I love that you just brought that up, because America loves to come up with cute terms
Yeah,
and words for things like the Jim Crow. It sounds like an era, a fashion, something.
yeah.
It sounds like something other than what it was, which is apartheid. But
Yeah,
please
it was
continue.
apartheid. But yeah, so the word apartheid I think didn't come into being until the 40s. So before that, basically, but now it's a helpful term to describe any system in the present or in the past that basically, yeah, separated people by race, in which you're a different legal system based on your race that you're born into. But what's so sad kind of about, again, our own history is that we were the victims of white supremacy, but then we took on a lot of the notions and a lot of the ideas of white supremacy. Even though, again, we Jews are considered white in some places, we're not considered white in some places. But we took a lot of the logic of white supremacy, of the idea of racial supremacy, and we applied it to Palestine. Because a lot of the ideas of Zionism, the very basic ideas, are based on the idea that we are more important than the Palestinian people, that our rights in that land are more important than the rights of the Palestinian people. And that's what's so tragic.
Even American Jewish
Yeah.
people. I That's another thing I learned from watching this is American Jewish people have more rights to the land
Yes.
than
Than
Palestinian.
Palestinians. Yep.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
that's what's so crazy, and that's why, we talked about the Nakba earlier. Almost every Palestinian American that I know, their parents or grandparents were ethnically cleansed in 1948, and many of them are still around. I know Nakba survivors, right?
Mhm.
And so people who literally were born in homes in Palestine, they cannot return to their homes. But I can go right now. Maybe not now because Israel doesn't
Right.
like me that much, probably now. But right now, I as a Jewish person can go to Israel and get citizenship like that, right? That's a system of racial supremacy, right? I've never lived in that land, right? Again, we have a deep historical tie to that land, but it's not, I didn't live there. Where someone who literally lived there in 1947 was kicked out of their homes, they cannot return. And that's the great tragedy of the situation for the Palestinian people is that they had nothing to do with our oppression, but they have been oppressed in quite profound ways, and it's truly heartbreaking, especially as someone again who has been, our people have been so oppressed for so long, and that's why so many American Jews are so heartbroken because we learn lessons about our own oppression, and we eventually learn that we are now oppressing other people, and that's why that's why there's so many American Jews when I was speaking out to the point where polling shows almost 40% of young Jews under 40, think Israel is committing the crime of apartheid. So there's a
Ah.
massive number of American Jews who now are willing to look reality in the eyes. We care deeply about being Jewish. Again, many of us have Israeli friends or family members, but we see apartheid. We know what apartheid looks like. We can see it. Especially, and you don't need to go there to see it, but when you go there, man, again, as you said, you can't unsee it. I learned about the occupation and the Nakba for the first time when I was 18, but I went there for the first time when I was 21. And
Mhm.
man, when you go to the West Bank again, you see what apartheid South Africa looked like in the 70s and 80s. You see what colonization looks like in real time, and it is crazy.